Welcome to the podcast The Embodiment Talks, a podcast by the Embodiment Lab with Marion van Opijnen. Taking your role as change agent of societal or education systems requires vision and courage. This podcast will help you take this pioneer's role with more body awareness and confidence, without losing sight of the connection with others. We dive into how we as humans are hardwired, how systems change works, and how both are related. I will take you on my own quest, and I will share background information, talk to experts, and share exercises. We will think, feel, and act. Great that you're here, and happy listening. Welcome at this new episode of the Embodiment Talks. And today I would like to talk to you about an interview I had with Inge Knoope. And as I have also a Dutch version of this podcast, I did the interview in Dutch, so therefore I can't post it here. So in case you actually do speak Dutch or you understand Dutch, I'd really recommend you to listen to the podcast, because it was a really enlightening and deep conversation that we had about about systemic change, and also how we need to align our inner and outer world to really tap into our full human potential. So to make up for the lack that I can't post the interview here on the English version, I thought it may be nice just to dive into a few topics that we spoke about in the interview. And so it will be a much shorter version, this one, than the interview, but at least I will just take up a few highlights. And we actually started the interview, or not really started, but anyway, somewhere in the interview we spoke about that we as humans have a unique feature, that we actually can work together with people that we don't really know. And it happens every day. So when I apply for a job, I'm put in a team with people I actually don't know. And, it works very well that we work together. And that we actually do that by creating systems, because if I want to work with you, and we don't know each other, so we don't have that real understanding of who you are, how you think, what your ideas are, and what have you. So then we need to find other ways to be able to work together. So systems are very helpful in that. And by creating procedures and functions and function descriptions, we create an environment where we can actually do the job that we're supposed to do. And but that also has another side, because to be able to fit in that structure of that job description, I may have to leave part of me behind. Because maybe I have other thoughts about what I'm creating, or maybe I'd like to bring in some more creativity, but that is not possible because it's not within the job description. And it's what we see a lot. And also, if I look back at my own career, what also has kind of demotivated me several times, that I had to fit in that system to be able to work somewhere. And the places where I really flourished were actually places where there was a lot of space for creativity, for my own thinking, where I kind of felt, I can be that human I want to be, or I am. And at other places where I didn't flourish that well were often places where I was told to do what to do, or where I had to fit in a certain structure or something like that. And it's also something that you can reflect on for yourself. What were places where you flourished? What were the characteristics of the places that you actually flourished? And what were places that you maybe had difficulty to kind of fit in the system, but tried very hard, did succeed up to a certain level, but at the undercurrent that may have given you also a feeling of having to leave yourself partly behind. And if I now look at many jobs, there's so many people working in places and working in positions where they have to leave part of themselves behind to be able to do what they actually do. And that's because we had needed those systems so that we were able to work together with people that we don't really know, that may be from other communities. So it doesn't just emerge, but we have to set those rules. Then if we, it would be interesting to look at, okay, if that doesn't really work, we've tried it, we've been there, we've done that, but it didn't really give the results that we desired, or for many people. And especially if you look around now with how many people are burnout, how many people, or even young people nowadays, actually are depressed or anxious, so we have so many mental problems. And I think for a large part that's because we are made to kind of try to fit in a system that is not really suitable for us, but that kind of served us in a certain way so that we could do the things that we do. But now we also see the limitations of how it doesn't serve us anymore. And it's already what we learn from a very young age. So at school, we already made to kind of fit in a system, and we are graded for everything that we do. And if you pass, then you fit in that system. And if you fail, then you're kind of an outsider of society. Whereas maybe people that fail have much more creativity than many of us who kind of passed in the system. And in a system, an education system where we are judged based on the results that we get, how creative can we be? How much can we actually bring in from ourselves? Because what if that doesn't fit in the system? Then is there still a place for me as well? So from there, and we discussed as well the education side, as we discussed like the systems that we need to be able to work together. But we also both saw that it doesn't really create what really feeds us, what really makes us flourish as individuals. So from there, we looked at 3 principles that Inge mentioned. And I'd like to take you along those 3 principles because I think they are interesting in the sense of what kind of society could we be moving to, and it's also principles that kind of are important for us as individuals. And the first one is communicative self-direction or self-steering. It's always a little bit funny to translate those Dutch words into English and then to find the right wording for that. But it's about that we all have that kind of spark. We all have something that makes us enthusiastic, something that, you could say like something that you can wake me up for at night. And it's something really inherent to me, like my own spark, my own talents that I can bring into the world. And so if we talk about this more self-steering or taking self-responsibility in combination with communicating about it, is like, okay, I want to live my spark, is what I said just before. If we don't do that, we kind of also feel the limitations of the system, and we feel like, okay, I need to leave myself half behind. So if I fully show up in the system with whatever is alive in me, with my talents, with what I really have to bring into this system, why I was born, then I need a system where that is welcomed, but I also need to communicate about that. I need to be transparent in the sense that I need to share what's actually alive in me. And that also requires a place of safety where I can feel like I'm safe enough to kind of really fully show up. And if I again look back in my own career at places where I really flourished, that were also places where I felt safe enough to really show up, and where I felt safe enough to also make mistakes and to say like, oh, okay, I don't know, or that wasn't that clever to do. But next time I'll do better. I will, I learned from this. So it really is a place where I'm seen as a unique human being, and where there's a kind of places that give me the feeling like, oh, we've been waiting for your uniqueness to bring into this system. So individuality is not about, okay, it's me and I want to live this and striving for myself. It's okay, if I completely show up, then what is it that I actually bring into this system? And can I be transparent and communicate about that? And Inge gave a really nice example, which is about the oak tree. So an oak tree is supposed to be an oak tree. It's the seed is the oak tree, and it's not supposed to be any other thing, because the whole system is waiting for that oak tree, because it has to fulfill a role in that whole ecosystem, and it feeds other species. And it's fed by other species. So it's in its own uniqueness, it has a unique place in that whole ecosystem. And although it doesn't feed everything in that ecosystem, but it feeds things that feed other things in the ecosystem again. And that's the same to us. So we also are those unique creatures that have a role to play in the whole, in the larger whole. And it's so nice to come to a place that I experience sometimes where I really feel like, oh, I've been waited for. So I'm welcome in, and I can just fully show up. And that also allows me to be transparent and communicate about what really is going on inside of me. So that was the first principle that we spoke about. And the second principle that we spoke about was individually chosen togetherness. And so if I now look how we often organize, we kind of put in teams, we put in departments. It's pre-thought about where we are supposed to do our thing. But if we talk about individually chosen togetherness, it's when I really fully show up that I just spoke about. Then that resonates with people, and it resonates with some people, and it may not resonate with other people. And in that resonance, people can stand up and say, oh, I'd like to do that together with you. We've got something here that we can explore together, and that we can deepen, and that we maybe can grow bigger and nicer than I could do individually. So it's about that we can work together beyond our job descriptions, beyond what we thought we were supposed to do, or because there is something, some resonance between you and me, and therefore we found each other. And that could be because we can make something nice, and we can create something, and we can come to flourishment together. But it also could be because I've got something to sort out. You mirror something of which I can learn something. And that also implies that when I've learned what I have to learn from this relationship with you, that relationship can end again as well. So every kind of togetherness has a beginning and an ending, and it could be short and long. And in that togetherness, there is the third principle, which is growing partnership. And so in that togetherness, we can create great things, but we also probably most likely there will be some friction at times. And so it's a way of growing into that partnership, and that it allows us to mature actually as humans. So if I'm put in a place where I have to do with the people that are there as well, which where I'm told what to do, where I have fixed projects, or somebody else tells me which projects I have to work on, then I'm not asked to show up in a fully mature way, because I'm only spoken to a part of me, who I am. But if I choose myself to work with those that resonate, where I can either bring something, or I can learn something, or both, and we fully face all the beauties and the ugliness of that relationship to see how we can kind of grow in that requires a certain maturity. So that growing partnership is about maturing into the partnership, to look together at the friction that is there. And to be able to do so, we need that communicative self-direction again as well, because that's about transparency and fully showing up. So if there is friction, can I be transparent about the friction? And can I fully show up in what it does to me? And can the other as well, so that we kind of can grow together into that relationship? Or can I ask in that relationship what I need to be able to flourish? Or can I give what the other needs? In a way that it is a free choice. Like, okay, now I can give this to you, but today I'm tired, I can't. But tomorrow, then we can talk about it. Or so it's a matter of, if we really want to show up fully, it's a matter of maturing into relationships and into that world. And we can only mature when we really go inside and start to know what's actually alive inside of us, and to be able to communicate about that. So that kind of makes the circle round as well, from communicative self-direction to individually chosen togetherness and a growing partnership. So they can't stand alone, they come together and they mutually feed each other. So if I mature in a relation, I will be able to better show up entirely. If I show up entirely, that will also make it a growsome relationship or partnership. So I thought these were 3 really interesting principles that I took from the interview with Inge, and she embodies them much more. So I'm still a little bit like, okay, yeah, I can see they are interested. I can see that they really can bring something. And yet I'm still a little bit like, oh, how exactly does that work? But I hope that through this explanation, that it also gave some interesting insights for you that, that you can take forward as well. And as said, if you understand Dutch, please go and have a look at the interview. You can find it on YouTube, and you can also find it in your favorite podcast app. So thanks for watching today, and watch your relationships, watch how you show up in full transparency. And if you do, or if you don't, and if you don't, then don't be judgmental to yourself, because we're all humans and it's difficult for all of us. And I'm looking forward to meet you again in my next episode. Great that you listened to this episode of the Embodiment Talks. Please let me know your thoughts about this episode or the insights that you gained. Email me to the address in the show notes. If you want to get in touch with me, or if you have a question or topic that you want to know more about, don't hesitate to send me an email as well. Do you want to be kept up to date? Like this podcast in your favorite podcast app. You can help me by giving a thumbs up or leaving a comment, so that this podcast will reach more people. You can find more information about my work on my website www.embodimentlab.nl. or my YouTube channel, Embodiment Lab. Thanks for listening, and meet you at the next episode.